it started out with this little poem that came to my mind when I was walking on the boardwalk, with this little haiku with it's not a haiku, it's like haiku, has 6 lines to it, and each line became a title of a section of the book. So this is what it's answering stone, the voices of water, holy oils, emblems of earth among stars. And so each of those is a section. I'm just going to read a little bit from each section. And I really think of it as a book of praise. So I'm going to start out like that. And yeah, there's a motorcycle poem. I'm going to read that too. So it's too bad. Praise, this poem is called Praise. It's to start. It fits this time of year. I want to praise what cannot last. Scarlet and orange leaves, crushed and trampled, the way they rise again in wood smoke. I want to think the way wind thinks, the way an oak leaf dreams, shadow and light, the way blackbird builds her nest or a cloud blooms out of emptiness. I want to name things, the way dwarf pine names shining grubs beneath bark skin. The way nettles spark fever, the tawny owl calls feathers, under the new moon, secretly feeding earth and sun. I tell my hand write like lichen over stone, a bit of dry rot, a raindrop. Tell my eye to imagine like a mirror, my tongue to speak the mystery of salt. I'm hungry for light, spread like gold brown apple jam on my skin. Speak, but let things be exactly as they are. How easily they shelter alone behind a stone, how they steal into my ear and whisper, death, go away. The Pleiades turn and return as night hides us in her black velvet, little lights, live setting, rising on earth. Yes. And this is a praise poem to some of the writers who I've loved in the past. Some of them I don't love so much anymore, but at one time they were really important to me. By way of words, but some of them I still love a lot. Locked within the radiant metal skin of a DC-10. Oh, I should say this, I wrote it on the plane when I was flying from Minneapolis to LA, which I've done a lot, so it's a plane view poem. By way of words. Locked within the radiant metal skin of a DC-10, in flight from one life to another, I stare out a scratched porthole to my Midwest, twilight coming on. Below, through miles of cloudless air, a freeway, cloverleaf glitters. A brooch, sweet planet of my youth, my childhood. Where's home? From the memory room of my brain, Seamus Haney's voice lilts. You are neither here nor there, a hurry through which known and strange things pass. I am a vessel of music assigned to seat 11A, moving mid to west above the continent in a vacant space once called God's. To the plane's blinking wing I give Yeats' Stolen Child, all of it. Bishop's Moose, the start of it. Nimble music of Hopkins' Wreck, part of it. Thou knowest the walls alter an hour and night, the swoon of a heart that the sweep and the hurl of thee trod. The flight attendant comes by for trash, and Elliot intones in my head, because these wings are no longer wings to fly, but merely vans to beat the air. The captain's voice announces our descent. I turn back to my fertile window. Teach us to care and not to care. First, the desert of small LA house tracks, then the light-studded spines of buildings slowly rise into view. I think Emily here, her certain slant. Waiting traffic stalled at salt-rimmed lights, tiny boats and rising lace-fringed sea swells. With Neruda, I want to be and be nothing but light in the dark. Scarlet sunset stripes the seaside hills, the flag of a country made of smog and beauty. And this is a poem, a praise poem to West 7th, where I grew up in St. Paul, and God knows I never would have thought I'd ever be writing a praise poem to West 7th. It's where the motorcycles come in here. It's called Thundering Up West 7th. Along the Mississippi, sagging houses, narrow streets, discharged teens born during the war or just after. Lilacs droop over sidewalks, scent the edges of drive-in parking lots. Saddle shoes crush fallen blossoms, scarves circle our junior high faces, bright lips and cheeks, nylon knots on our chins, badges of sophistication. We eye the boys in fishtail Chevys, watch older girls balancing trays, root beer, burgers, deep-fried onions. In a crowd of greasy vapor, motorcycles roar up West 7th from the Harley-Davidson shop. My disbelieving stare trails Cookie and Rose, their short bleached hair and leather jackets, arms wrapped around the waists of favorite bikers, while crows and bare oaks intone, "You can't, you can't." One night, Big Dave offers me a ride. On his huge black Harley, my long braid flying in that joyous wind, I cling to him, senses open like mouths, shouting yes. Yes to the long tongue of the road lolling out before me. Yes to West 7th, transformed to ridge across hills, shining Aegean below. Yes to a white trail up mountains where moose dance through drifts of snow. Yes to the clouds blooming lavender. Yes to grand bazaars and cobbled streets. No to staying home, my mother's anger, my brother's fights. My pulse like a stadium of fists punching, yes, yes, yes. Later I walk with Kathy and Sharon past dark crowded bars, ankle deep in tenderness and lilacs. The roar of Harleys in my blood. And this is a praise poem to the boardwalk. Okay, so this, you'll recognize the setting here. It's called Symphony in Blue and Yellow, and it's taken from a quote by Vincent van Gogh, one of his letters, where he said, "The whole thing will be a symphony in blue and yellow." Right now, the world seems bleak. Wars grind on, children without refuge, friends sick with cancer. Rain clouds for a parched landscape stray too far north again. And here I am by the sea with you, silver-haired man who likes to be with me still. How many times have I forgotten to give thanks? In the west, silver boats with black sails that look like the backs of leaping whales, one with crimson sails stretches its wings, round quarter notes of dolphins dot the lavender page of sea, declouded sky boils at low flame. How foolish we have been to waste a single breath arguing. Palm branches rustle, clouds of finches rise. I know sorrow is somewhere out there, but still the wing beats of my lungs inhale my blood sea blue in the tide of my heart. Thirsty palms breathe in what I exhale, wave their greened fronds in gratitude. Sometimes a dove on the boardwalk comes as close to us as trust. Its long vowels, not mournful, but one of those sounds that tap into memory's underground river. Hilltown in France, sun a rough-tongued cat, citron-licking arms and faces. Walking into a Van Gogh wheat field, his symphony in blue and yellow. I am in it with all my heart, Vincent wrote to Theo. I am in it too, this life with its longing, its wide sorrows, and slender songs. If I am beautiful, it's because of your hands moving over me, your lips saying my name. We breathe with the sea, seraphic blue of the islands, sun and moon in the same sky. So this book is called Cypher Garden, which is a kind of a weird title, except I mean it that way. Those were medieval gardens that had all these mysteries in them that had to be unraveled with all these clues, and that's what I intended in the book. But I really saw a Cypher Garden that was a real Cypher Garden now. In St. Olaf Cathedral, which is in Trondheim in Norway. And it was this big garden on the floor of the cathedral in stone, and it was about what are those, the capital sins, or what's the word? Deadly sins. Yeah, the great sins, okay? And there was an animal in each square to represent a sin, which kind of really, those poor animals. But anyway, and then there were these blank squares that you were supposed to put your own sins on and then stamp on them. So I had to write a poem about that. So the poem is called Cypher Garden. That's like made for a poet. On the flagstone floor, a carved garden dedicated to the deadly sins. Each sin signed by an animal, an inverse sky of bestial constellations. Gluttonous fat pig low to the ground, razor-clawed crabs secreting anger, sweet sloth loving total laziness. Empty squares demand sinners lay down each transgression, stamped upon. Whoever made animals emblems of sin? I tried but couldn't think of deeds in my long life I would quash. My commitment to appetite, creme brulee, Provencal wine, a bouillabaisse of taste and smell. Finding sun, my home of slow dreams. Butterflies connect the patchwork of my anger, soaring into the spheres, pigments from the warm body of the earth. The animals in my Cypher Garden fly in Chagall's vision at the center of all things, red whirling in a womb of yellow. Dancing bull and cow, flying fish, firebird, Adam and Eve laughing as they are expelled by a tender angel, flying into and out of hope. I was 26 when I left the convent, not knowing how my clumsy body could rise then fall like a feeding pelican, guttural moaning in blue-backed, red-roomed ecstasy. Was that a sin, I asked a priest. I don't know, he said. Too many years before I flew into my body, I would stamp on that sorrow. Its cipher was a blank slate. What came after floods the margins, emblems in lapis and carnelian, colors in the language of cardinals. Think of the statue of the black bear nosing a berry bush at the entrance to Madrid's Puerto del Sol. I was that berry appetite and the sweet-fruited bush. I was so hungry. So I'm going to read a different kind of poem here after that. It's from the section of the book called The Voices, and it's called Mother Tongue. It's for my granddaughter Bridget, who's not a year and a half yet, but who this is perfect for her because she never stops talking. I mean, never. So it's called Mother Tongue for Bridget. All you know these early days is calling mother, father, sister. Sometimes a bird gurgle of bliss, a scrap of music, enough to make cups of ears. Sounds chained in bracelets, glistening objects, bright and dark, gifts for your mouth, that temple of new sounds, your cries, your moving tongue's wild script. Your wide eyes search in a greenscape for trees, bushes, hedges, boundaries blurred between earth and sky, day and night. Ahead of you, child, are names of things and things not yet named. Ahead of you, mallards and ducklings, hawks and their chicks. Inside, you live the names for every bird and all the tender words we give you so you can make your way through the glittering world. Okay. And I'm going to read, this poem is called Holy Oil, and it's a list poem. There's a part of the book called Holy Oils, and this is the first one. Holy oil. Pigeons' breasts shine like oil on wet streets. Bodies built of balanced stones, centuries line the tar-flecked beach. Flints of gemstones, reflections of rose windows, creases in the bedsheet. The oily coffee in my cup turning white with real cream. The label on our wine bottle, attar of rose, essence of jasmine, how full my glass. Fingerprints on my mother's last card, her spidery with love. Black smudges of engine grease lining my father's nails. The shine of sacramental oil on his forehead as he died. Slide of lavender oil over wounds of body and soul. Wild horses in the French Camargue, white manes blowing in sea wind, mothers nursing dark colts shining with sweat, thousands of flamingos in the salt flats. My brother wounded in the war, he won't talk to me. I would anoint the faces of those I love with the oil that weeps from my own skin. So my two ending poems, one is a little heavier and one is a praise poem at the end. This was called, there's a series in here called Remembering Paris, and I wrote it after the massacre at the concert. And this is the last one, I just want to read it. Remembering Paris, City of Visions. We enter monuments to the past, Notre Dame, the Louvre, Sainte-Chapelle. If we pressed our ears to the ground, we would hear silence gathering like time as borders unstitch themselves, as empires crumble into bits of gray stone. While we pace the circuit of lights, wars graze the edge of our consciousness, ricochet back to their own countries. In the brasserie, wine glasses break. We listen for the roar of tanks, but it's the wind we hear, a sullen advancing while the earth cracks and peels like a canvas of dreams. City of losses, city of visions, larger than all our fears. There's a storm on the way, and we, holding the hands of strangers, feel too small to push a gale force back to sea. How sorry we are to be only ourselves. We slip inside cemetery walls, search for a place where stone whispers, peace, peace, peace. And my last poem takes us back to the neighborhood, to the boardwalk. It's called Pacific in Winter. These waves, did I dream them? Waves muddy with rain, trailing wedding veils. Didn't they write their rhythms into my poems for years? Didn't rocks undulate to melodies of waves, planting their symmetries inside me, making me want to weep, making me jubilant? Wherever I go, as long as I walk hard paths, I want to breathe salt air. 70 years is a good age to turn and bow to islands in the west, snow-drifted mountains in the north, east to the old pier, and south to misty gray infinity. 70 years have taught me patience, perhaps, how to watch light through all its changes, wanting what everyone wants, time, sharp and still, as the air today, as I walk this narrow strip between rocks and sea, sand oozing under my footsteps, my sleeves fluttering like wings as though I could soar. I can't fly, but I'll keep on walking with persistent strides that have brought me this far. Thanks. Thank you. Okay. Before I leave, I just want to ask you, I'm just going to start this project, this page off of Facebook called Haiku for Change. It came out of a project that Sojourner and I did together. And we have, if you take a little piece of paper and write a haiku for change tonight and give it to me or leave it on the table up there, then I'm gonna put one every day online and just simple, it's just as a statement, of what we want. So it doesn't have to be like a formal haiku. And I have two examples from the crowd, a couple people who got theirs early. So they're gonna read them just to give you an idea. And you can either put your name on or don't put your name on or however you want to do it, because it's just what you want, a change you want. That's what it's for, okay? So, and then you can look it up, Haiku for Change, it'll be called. All right, so Marcia, why don't you read yours?
How mournful the mountains scraped away, how black their shelves. Be careful, child, when you breathe.
That's a good one.